Hello, my friend. I'm CharLee Simons, your host here on Do Not Talk, talking to the people I'm not supposed to talk about the things I'm not supposed to talk about two things you're never supposed to talk about, politics and religion. Everything you're not supposed to talk about, that's what I talk about on Do Not Talk. That's why it's called that. And thank you so much for tuning in. It's a very last minute show. I have a friend out in Florida who's been very, very effective and working diligently on election integrity with somebody who's been on my show several times before named Steve Stern. Well, that's John Goodman. He's been on my show before. He's put some news out that nobody knew about and then has turned around to be true more than once. So he said he's got some election integrity news. He's been working with a guy, the War Zone, I think it's called. Wayne Allen Root is his name. I'd love to have him on the show sometime. He seems like a cool dude. He's a conservative broadcaster and podcaster. And John Goodman's got some news. Got some encouraging news, I think, for the election, because we're in an election year now. The midterms are coming up in November. I hope you're registered to vote. If not, please get registered to vote at registertovote.ca.gov. That's registertovote.ca.gov. And get it done so you know when you go there, you're already going to be in the system. Of course, you won't have to show ID. At least not so far in California. It's pathetic. It's so ridiculous. There's so much election fraud in this state, which is why we're in the shape that we're in. But we have a Republican Party in the state of California that is, I'm a delegate. I'm actually a delegate. So I'm going to be at the convention coming up in just a few weeks. And I'm going to be voting on things that are brought before all of us to vote on as delegates of the California State Republican Party. There are things that have been, I've been very honest with you. I just did a show this morning with David Serpa. If you haven't watched it yet, go back and watch it at rumble.com/do not talk. Huge show. David Serpa names names. There's things going on in the California Republican Party that I've been sounding out about for several years now. And it's been kind of frustrating because sometimes I feel like a lone voice out in the wilderness shouting, look what's going on here. I'm on the inside. I see what's happening. I'm letting you know about it. Deaf ears, falling on deaf ears. Oh, well, that's my party. I'm sticking with it. A friend of mine named Minnie. I'm not going to, I haven't even talked this over if it was okay with her for me to put this on the show, but before I bring in John Goodman, I wanted you to hear what she wrote. Again, I have not gotten permission from her about this, but I have a feeling she'll be okay with it. Let me bring it up on screen so you can see it too. And excuse that big purple blob thing there on the side. I have no idea how to get rid of that. Okay, here we go. On February 19th, 2026, the CAGOP, that's the Republican Party of California, their engagement committee that Corinne Rankin sits as chairperson, issued an internal memo to California County Republican Central Committee leaders. I'm not one of those. I'm just a delegate. They held across the state to block far-right candidates and delegates identifying as America First. The memo highlights controversial Nick Fuentes for rejecting the America First candidates and delegates into the party. Not rejecting. I don't think she meant to say rejecting. The memo highlights controversial Nick Fuentes. So they're saying rejecting, I got it, America First candidates and delegates into the party. But this is very disingenuous, as the everyday Christian conservative is also labeled by these people in the California Republican Party as far-right Nazis and don't share in Fuentes' ideology for white nationalism. White nationalism is a fancier word for white supremacy and Nazis, basically. I don't believe that that's what Nick Fuentes is. I think he believes in America First. He believes in being proud of the nation that we have and proud. He has no problem saying, yeah, I'm a white guy. Everybody else can be proud of their race. Why can't I be proud of mine? Does that make him a Nazi? I don't see it. Maybe it does. Maybe you're seeing something I don't. Oh, wait. Continuing with this letter. At the most basic definition, because there are many, the traditional American conservative is someone who values established customs, social order, and authority, often emphasizing the importance of family, community, and moral principles. They believe that society should be guided by historical traditions and inherited values. A Christian conservative encompasses traditional conservatism and additionally believes that the Bible is the inherent word of God and the ultimate authority on all matters of faith and practice. Amen. They believe that the Bible is inspired by God and that it is a final authority for all Christian belief and conduct. Amen. Conservative Christianity has played a significant role in shaping American history as America was founded a Christian nation. Amen. Today, conservative Christians hold strong convictions on issues such as abortion, homosexual rights. I don't use the little letters because I don't let the left dictate the English language for me. So homosexual rights and immigration, leading conservative Christians to register Republican for the party's shared stance on these issues. It's in our platform. We support traditional marriage. We support, we are pro-life. In the platform, the California Republican Party actually tried to remove that a couple of years ago under Jessica Patterson, then chair of the party, and she turned out and her co-chair ran. And I thought, there's no way that all my fellow delegates are going to be stupid enough after suffering through what Jessica Patterson did to our party while getting paid $250,000 to be chair of the California GOP, which used to be a volunteer position, by the way. She was getting $250,000. That didn't include all the travel expenses, all the meals comped, all the airfare, all the mileage, all the meals, all the rooms, all paid for. Nothing out of pocket. $250,000 just a base salary on something that used to be a volunteer position. You served the party for a reason because you believed in it. Now it's a paid position. Good job, California GOP. That was stupid. But yet you don't have enough money to even contribute to grassroots candidates. Well, they're not interested in grassroots candidates anymore. They don't want those in the party, as we're seeing in the California Republican, the race for governor, gubernatorial race that's happening this year. They're not interested in grassroots candidates. So anyway, Corinne Rankin ran to replace Jessica Patterson and won in a very questionable vote with all kinds of there things flashing up on the screen about suddenly 100 votes went away here. And suddenly there was some kind of emergency thing on the screen. There's something wrong with the voting system. They look like little TV remotes. That's how we vote. And that's not easily hacked. Anyway, Mike Morrell was running against her, and that's who I was rooting for. That's who I voted for, Mike Morrell, and so did so many of my fellow delegates, but yet he didn't win. The co-chair, Jessica Patterson Light, who was a registered Democrat just like a few years earlier and switched parties, but still claims to be socially on the left. Fiscally conservative, but socially on the left. Those are very dangerous people, as far as I'm concerned, who are running the party. And anyway, Corinne Rankin won. So I just wanted to fill you in, bring you up to speed on that. She's now the chair of the California Republican Party. Okay, so continuing. Recently released memo from the CAGOP is in opposition of conservative Christian beliefs, whereas the memo reflects the Republican Party has taken an official stance against those opposing civil rights of gays, women, and racial minorities. No, you don't. You can have all the rights you want. You just can't have the privileges. You get the same rights as everybody else, but I don't want you to get special rights above everyone else, which is what's being pushed. If these sound similar to Democrat talking points, that is because they are. Civil rights are legal rights granted by the government. Natural law refers to inherent rights that are universal and not dependent on any laws. Natural law emphasizes fundamental human entitlements such as life and liberty, which cannot be taken away by any authority. Christian conservatives are pro-life, pro-nuclear family with a mother and a father for flourishing procreation and the nurturing of children under nature's law, God's law. On racial minorities, no person is born inherently racist. We are not each other's enemy. Both leading political parties of America use polarization to keep us divided. Amen, many. To understand where the current changes are coming from within the California Republican Party, I'm going to need you to take you back to last year when Corinne Rankin was elected the new CAGOP chair. I attended the CAGOP convention in Sacramento, and I was there as well. I'm reading what Minnie wrote here, though. I attended the CAGOP convention in Sacramento where Corinne Rankin was elected chair in March of 2025. It was actually the convention down in Los Angeles where that happened. Anyway, I was there in support of Mike Morrell for chairperson and Lonnie Kane, CRA endorsed candidate for CAGOP vice chair. Lonnie Kane, awesome. My voice is grassroots, and I spoke from the street for the everyday hardworking man and woman. There are hundreds of delegates in attendance of the California GOP convention to choose their new chairperson. This particular election had a feeling of urgency to it. Absolutely right, it did. The warning bells had been rung that Rankin was not the best fit for the chair. The Rankin Files, that's an actual YouTube channel, gave voting delegates an extra eyes view into who Rankin is at her core. She professes her views are aligned a Democrat. She shares other core beliefs and ignores directly answering questions. I know that to be true because it's what she did when I interviewed her before she won chair. She'll never go on my show now, guarantee it. When someone tells you who they are, pay attention. But when someone shows you who they are, believe them. I'll link those Rankin Files below, and she did. In the end, the race was called, and Rankin took 57% of the vote, beating out her competitor, Mike Morrell. However, some delegates questioned that the voting tabulation wasn't fair after sharing test runs failed to calculate the correct number of votes. And in other reports, there were accusations that absentee delegate votes were brought up and carried to favor Rankin. Those were bought and paid for. I'm quite convinced. I'll throw in allegedly, just in case they decide they want to turn around and try and sue me. When Rankin was called the winner, I was told by a delegate in attendance there wasn't much excitement from the audience. No, there was not. And when Morrell spoke, the audience roared in approval of him. Yes, that was true. Melissa Snow, who I admire and respect, of the Snow Report, reported on the resolutions that failed during the convention, which were several key America First and law-abiding resolutions, and none of them passed. None of them. Keep in mind as you read these failed resolutions that the California Republican Party claims to have increased its own voter registration roll and was pivotal in getting Trump elected. But when it came down to supporting Trump's America First agenda, the actual votes by voting members themselves reflected a different story. Resolution number 6, supporting President Donald J. Trump in his efforts to enforce immigration laws, did not pass. Resolution number 11, supporting President Trump's administration national farm security action, did not pass. Resolution 19, ensuring election integrity by removing non-citizens from voter rolls. Just makes sense, right? That passed, but it failed due to lack of quorum. Failed due to lack of quorum? I'm sorry, what? How come there was enough quorum for everything else? Explain that. All right, continuing. You can see here for yourself in these failed resolutions where the split is within the party itself. There are the establishment voting members who did not support Trump's America First agenda. And then there were those voted against the former Democrat Rankin to support Trump's America First agenda. Christian conservatives that are actively political and see what's happening within the party have already begun to exodus themselves of the Republican Party, electing to register as no party preference. Daniel Mercury, running for California's next governor and author of Lucifer's Zenith, where Daniel details his experience with all forms of government corruption and deception, said, Quote, if voters only knew how infiltrated each of those groups had become, they would easily identify candidates with moral decree instead of just believing what their party tells them, unquote. Other conservatives are leaving the Republican Party too. Actor James Woods, and political commentator who identifies as Catholic, has said he's done with the Republican Party and is registering independent in a recent post on X. I have two short last thoughts. The memo opposes critics of Trump. Okay. Let me remind the California GOP that Trump is an employee of we the people. It is our duty to keep a watchful eye on all our elected representatives and to hold them accountable for their actions and behaviors, just as other employers would in the job force. This includes being critical of action or behavior that does not serve the interest of we the people. And lastly, take heed the warnings of our founding members, many of whom were very clear on the evils of political factions, which is what the Democrat and Republican parties both are, and the importance of vetting candidates for their moral compass to do the right thing for the people. Thomas Paine wrote, quote, a man under the tyranny of party spirit is the greatest slave upon the earth, for none but himself can deprive him of the freedom of thought, unquote. Here's the memo, by the way. California GOP directs counties to reject candidates aligned with Nick Fuentes and other Nazis. California GOP convention recap. Trump's MAGA momentum shunned. Barely 2 days after commencing, there was diminished excitement at California Republican Party spring 2025 convention result. 3 of 4 party officers elected are establishment Republicans. Very important, very different. Establishment Republicans. The new chairwoman, Corinne Rankin, it's Rankin, not Raskin, is written here. The Vice Chair, John Park. Secretary Sayers Morris. America First Treasurer candidate Jack Guerrero was the lone exception. And I'll leave you with this, and then I'm going to get John Goodman into the mix here. California gubernatorial candidate Daniel Mercury blasts California GOP and exits Republican Party in third run to replace Gavin Newsom. Quote, U.S. Navy veteran and constitutional conservative Daniel Mercury registers no party preference ahead of the June 2nd, 2026 primary. He said, quote, the California GOP ignores their own bylaws, just like Democrats, and waters down their own conservatism. It is the group that no longer votes its conscience and has compromised its moral compass, unquote. Daniel Mercury. It's frustrating. I'm frustrated. I don't know what's coming up at this convention in just a few weeks. 2 weeks, actually. But I will be there. I'll let you know. I'll be doing some live reports from there, too, here at rumble.com/do-not-talk. But right now, somebody who's very well ensconced in election integrity, working with American patriot heroes like Mike Lindell and Wayne Allen Root and Jerome Corsi and many others, is on the show. Let's get him in. Hit it. Yeah, what's up, my brother from another mother? How are things on the far East Coast?
Well, they're very good, and a lot of productive work being done, and it's so great to be back on this show. This was one of the first. I never cared about podcasts, but Steve Stern, as you mentioned his name earlier, hooked us up, and this was actually one of the first podcasts I ever went on, and so it feels really good to be back with you today, Charlie.
Well, I'm glad you're here. You've given us some great information in the past. You're the one that was talking about being a part of and helping in the planning of the executive order that President Trump has got, as far as I know, standing by and ready to go if the SAVE Act doesn't pass. What's the latest news out there in Florida?
Well, I'll tell you, I took a very unpopular Republican stance when it came to the SAVE Act. And I've rattled some feathers, but now we're getting back on track. And this is what happened. As you recall, The original SAVE Act was focused on proof of citizenship and voter ID, yet it said nothing, zero, about the number one culprit of election fraud, which is mail-in ballot. It wasn't even in the SAVE Act, okay? Right. And the bottom line is it's the number one way illegal aliens
they're cheating here in California, that's for sure. Yes.
And anyone believes that an illegal alien hiding from ICE is going to go down to the election office to register in person is living in a fantasy world.
Well, so here in California, they don't have to. All they have to do is get a legal driver's license and they can get registered to vote. No questions asked.
And you're talking about motor voter, I assume.
Motor voter law, yes, in California.
Right. So I was not a big fan of the SAVE Act, and I'm not a fan of it now because and I'm going to tell you why. Number one, Donald Trump added to the SAVE Act mail-in ballot, no mutilation of children for transgender, and no men and women's sports. So now it is in Charlotte's web of a legislation bill that, by the way, is at least 10 votes short of the 60 vote threshold. And it is amazing to me that 80% of Republicans are standing on the bow of the Titanic, knowing that the SAVE Act is on a respirator. And the SAVE Act, I had a three-way call. I'm going to drop some names. The hell with it. I had a three-way call with Steve Stern, Wayne Root, and myself 3 weeks to a month ago. And I called the SAVE Act a red herring. Everything in the SAVE Act dealing with elections is in President Trump's election executive order on steroids. But nobody knows what's in it. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Well, like Nancy Pelosi said, we've got to pass it to be able to know what's in it. So there you go. Go ahead and pass it.
And
I'll never forget that. That was a whole Obamacare thing. Remember that?
That's one of the classic lines in political history.
These idiots don't even read what they're voting on.
No. But the SAVE Act, 5 pages. That's it. It's like as short as like a CR, like a continuing resolution. I mean, it's not going to pass. And it's time for the Republicans to take a dose of reality. And so Donald Trump, as you know from last time I was on your show, he was ready to release this executive order in early November. And here comes the SAVE Act. Mr. President, we've got a way to solve all of this. You don't have to worry about all these challenges in court and all the pushback. We're just going to be able to pass it through Congress. Well, it did pass in the House.
In the House, yeah.
But it's never going to get 60 votes because even if every single Republican, CharLee, voted for the SAVE Act, it would still be 7 votes short. And the Democrats know that mail-in ballot is their number one tool for cheating. And I'll give a quick example. John Fetterman, who was for the SAVE Act, but now suddenly he's turned against it. That's right. And why? He was for the SAVE Act in that original where I told you that it was just proof of citizenship and voter ID.
Oh, because those 2 other things were added. Now suddenly he doesn't want it. Got it.
Well, he even said, why are you tampering with mail-in ballot? So I've told you many times that there's no such thing as mail-in ballot. It's not in the Constitution. It's not in the 1965 Voting Act. But let me now give you some things that have happened since I talked to you last and to your fans last.
My fan.
No, CharLee. You're very well. You may be in a tough spot in California as a California delegate, but you are respected as a podcaster and individual. So
Thank
So
you
let's,
both for watching.
yeah, no, there'll be plenty of people that will get the message through
Okay, all
CharLee
right.
Simons. Absolutely. So the Democrats, now it's like mail-in ballots are legal. It's just part of our voting system. Well, since I talked to you last, two big things have happened. As you recall, I found some verbiage in the Constitution that shed some real doubts on the state's powers over elections, if you recall that.
Mhm.
It's gotten even better. And I met with Peter Tickton in his office in Deerfield Beach, Florida, face to face for 25 minutes. And so I will refer you to an interview April the 6th, 2020, as COVID just started to rage around, right? April 6th, 2020. This is Nancy Pelosi talking to CNBC. And the title of her interview is called Lawmakers Push for Vote by Mail in Response to Coronavirus Pandemic. They knew that there was no such thing as mail-in ballots. And in the interview, Nancy Pelosi says, quote, the country needs to move toward a vote by mail system to give citizens a safe way to cast their ballots while the coronavirus makes it too dangerous to congregate. So what ended up happening is Donald Trump signed a declaration giving the states power to open up. Everyone can vote by mail because of the pandemic. Joe Biden didn't switch it back. So the Democrats know it's illegal. Nancy Pelosi, right there, was begging President Trump to
That's the same Nancy Pelosi, by the way, who showed up to the Chinese New Year celebration, which is now called Lunar New Year, to try and include all Asians, in San Francisco. She was actually there, their big celebration, all during the whole big COVID shutdown. She was wearing a mask, though, so it was safe. This is the same woman who's saying we can't show up to vote in person, so we better all vote by mail. What a scam that was. I'm so sorry that President Trump approved that because, to my knowledge, it is unconstitutional and should have never even been allowed. But yet here it is still thriving in states like California.
Well, that's where I'm going, CharLee. By the way, I'm going to prove before this show's over that Miss Rankin's targeting of anyone that identifies as America First is illegal. I'm going to flat out prove it right now on your show. And maybe you take it back to the Republican delegates.
Okay? I will.
Okay.
I will.
So number one, besides the constitutional law that I submitted to Peter Tickton, and I went to his office because I wanted to have something as a backstop at SCOTUS because, well, first of all, the SAVE Act is hurt because it's delayed the release of the executive order because everyone's waiting for it to pass. It's not going to pass.
No, heck no. They're going to drag it out and the whole thing they're going to filibuster and all this crap. And they want to take a spring break, an Easter break, as they call it. They don't want to deal with all of it. It's not important enough to them to put in this kind of work. Is there any question why almost every American at this point just hates our legislators in general, hates the Congress, hates the Senate? We're sick of it. We're done with it. We can't stand these people. And we watch John Thune, the majority leader in the Senate, throw a little dog show for all of the members of the Senate, and they all brought their dogs, and they had a little dog show after he had just said, oh, yeah, no, we just don't have the kind of time to really bring this to a vote right now.
Well, the bottom line is this. Regardless of what I think about John Thune, regardless of what I think about the SAVE Act, the reality is it doesn't have the votes, and it's not going to get the votes. So Donald Trump needs to go ahead and release his executive order, which has been ready for several months. Okay, because as soon as he signs it, it's going to have a appeal put on it by the Democrats. They're going to challenge it. Then you've got to wind through the appeals process. And the goal is there has to be enough time to get it to SCOTUS. And now I'm going to tell you how the oral argument at SCOTUS is really, and this sounds very arrogant, is really awesome. And the Democrats will be out of gas at SCOTUS, even if a left-wing judge in appeals puts an injunction on it. It'll still be upheld and codified by SCOTUS. And I'm going to tell you.
By the way, for anyone who doesn't know, is the Supreme Court of the United States.
Yes.
I never want to assume that everybody knows. I always explain things.
Absolutely.
But the Supreme Court, of course, this is going to wind up, whether it's an executive order or whether the SAVE Act passes. There is something that John Kennedy from Louisiana has introduced, and it's something I hadn't heard of, but it's a way for them to require only 50 instead of 60 votes. Yeah, you know about that?
I do know about it. And what they say they would do is try to do a quorum vote during the recess, because if the Senate's out of session, then it just needs a simple majority. But do you really think that the Democrats are going to leave town knowing that when they come back, their coveted mail-in ballot would be gone? I mean, it's almost like recess appointments, right? You know how sometimes parties push through a few judges during recess appointments?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure.
Legal, yes. Realistic, again, I'm fully aware of it. It sounds great. Hey, when you're at home, we'll push the SAVE Act through. They're not going home. The Democrats are not going to go home. The mail-in ballots is their lifeblood. They can't win elections without them. They're not going anywhere. Chuck Schumer's telling them, don't you leave Washington, D.C. city limits or your ass is in huge trouble, buddy. It's true, Charlie. I know, but they're trying. But
I see what you're saying. I think let me throw it out here. See if I am on the right track. You're wanting and encouraging President Donald Trump to go ahead and just say, screw it, and put the executive order into action because it's going to have to be done anyway. But I believe that President Trump is doing this for two reasons. One, he's certainly fully aware that we're in a midterm election year and that we've got to maintain and even increase our majority in the House and in the Senate, or the last 2 years of my president's term is going to be far worse than anything that Nancy Pelosi tried to bring down on him during his first term. It's going to be horrific. Are the American people going to realize that? Are they going to wake up? Are they going to say we're sick and tired of Democrats? No, because all this cheating is still into effect, and there's a whole lot of people who will never vote for anything with an R in front of its name. And he knows this, no matter how good it is for them, no matter how much better things are now. So I believe he's letting this process play out because he wants us to see who the real rhinos are. So we will be emboldened and encouraged to go vote in the primaries in California on June 2nd, and then in the big election in November, and get rid of these freaks, get rid of these rhinos. And it's happening in other states already who have earlier elections. But except for Florida, your state of Florida, what the heck happened? Suddenly you got a bunch of Democrats all running around there squealing with delight.
Well, I'm telling you, what you just said is really playing a risky game, because what me and Wayne Root are calling it is 2 for the price of 1. If you want to sit there and fight for a bill that is a long way from passing, way short of votes, but release the executive order, then you have a legislative attack and an executive branch attack. And keep in mind, Charlie, if the SAVE Act doesn't pass, which it's very slim chance that it will, you can't appeal to the Supreme Court. Oh, my bill didn't pass Congress.
No.
But you can appeal if an appeals judge puts an injunction on a presidential executive order. Okay? That's important. The other thing is, I'll drop some more names. I called Scott Pressler. I called him myself. I had had enough because he's pushing the SAVE Act even when it was just proof of citizenship and voter ID, with not even a mention of the number one culprit of the fraud, the mail-in ballot, over 50 million per election over the last 3 cycles. And he didn't want to hear it. He had a meltdown. He did. Yeah, I don't care. It's true. He had a meltdown. He would not even acknowledge the fact that the SAVE Act is in bad shape. He would not acknowledge that it's not mail-in ballot strong enough. Wouldn't acknowledge anything. And if you notice and then I've been watching him, his posts now are dealing with the Department of Homeland Security, and he's running for city council or something in Beaver County, Pennsylvania. So he convinced a lot of Republicans. I don't know what it is, whether it's that he goes to Capitol Hill in looking like a cowboy with jeans and hair down to his shoulders, and so Democrats want to look like, hey, everybody's got a voice, we'll talk to this guy. I don't know what the motivation is, but why the Republicans continue, Mike Lee, continue to say that the SAVE Act is got hope, is delaying Donald Trump, delaying it, running through the process. And if it doesn't get to SCOTUS in time, we will have millions of illegals voting mail-in ballots, and the Democrats will take back Capitol Hill, and Donald Trump will likely be impeached. And if they use him and somehow are able to take both houses, he could be thrown out of office.
Actually removed from office. Yeah. Yes.
So I want to tell you the other reason why me and Wayne Root and some other national people, I'm not the national people, they're the national people. I found something else that is extraordinary. And if you found it, I'd call it extraordinary. I wanted to find something that gave that, if he released it and it got to the Supreme Court, something that was irrefutable, that the court could not rule against his EO, could not in a million years rule against it. So I started looking at every Supreme Court case from 1950 to
this
present.
Is the stuff that John Goodman does that I love. He does stuff. He does what media people used to do, investigative journalists. That's what he does. Go ahead. I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah, started with 1950, and I went through thousands of cases to find something that might help when Donald Trump's election EO, if it ever makes it to SCOTUS, if he'd ever get off the SAVE Act like everybody else, a dying Titanic, and release it. There's a decision over 30 years ago from the Supreme Court, and I will tell you right now, it's from 1995, and it's called Term Limits v. Thornton. And everyone listen very closely to this, because the powers to be are extremely happy to have this. This is going to blow everybody away right here. 1995, Term Limits versus Thornton. It was a case out of Arkansas where an incumbent was gearing up to run for re-election, and the Arkansas legislature, without a vote or without on any ballot, just instituted term limits. Said you can't run. Just on their own, their little
never took it to a vote or anything.
Nothing.
This is what we're doing. Okay, gotcha.
And it went to the Supreme Court. And as you know, the Democrats say that they can do mail-in ballots for all and do all this crazy stuff that's not in our voting laws because the Constitution says that states determine the time, place, and manner of elections. I'm not sure.
Oh, that's the key word, manner.
Which is called the Elections Clause.
Yeah.
Article 1, Section 4, the Elections Clause states control elections, time, place, and manner. I'm not sure what manner means, but this is what the Supreme Court in 1995 said, because this was a case about candidates and term limits and elections, and their decision morphed into this. And I'm going to read it, quote, and I'm going to read the couple paragraphs. I'm not reading the 29 pages of the written decision. All right.
Okay. Thank you. We all thank you.
They said the states cannot go beyond protection of the integrity and regularity of the election process and instead operate to disadvantage a particular class of candidates or negate the need for a general election. Then they said this. They said the framers understood the Elections Clause, which is what the Democrats hide behind for their reason to be able to do all this. So let me say that again. The court said, quote, the framers understood the Election Clause, Article 1, Section 4, as a grant of authority to issue procedural regulations and not as a source of power to dictate electoral outcomes, favor or disfavor a certain class of candidates, or to evade constitutional restraints. From the Supreme Court, 1995, and my friend Peter Tickton tells me this. He loves it as what he called a backstop, as part of an oral argument if this EO lands at the Supreme Court, which if he doesn't release it soon, it's a moot point. Only once. The Supreme Court was formed in 1789, CharLee. You probably already knew that. Only once in the history of the Supreme Court has a current Supreme Court overruled a decision from a prior Supreme Court. Once in history, Roe v. Wade. It's the only time. And here we have the 1995 Supreme Court that says the states, under the Elections Clause, it's procedural. And now we'll get back to Miss Rankin, who said that she cannot allow Miss Rankin, who you read in your opening monologue, CharLee, right? Yeah. Who said that, right? What'd you say? America First candidates cannot identify.
Yeah, that's right. Not welcome.
Yeah, that's right. Well, how about in that decision I just read, it said that they cannot favor or disfavor a certain class of candidates. So this is a widely unknown Supreme Court ruling. And just to put the icing on the cake, at the time of this ruling, it was a 5-4 Democrat majority court.
That was Bill Clinton. Those are Bill Clinton days.
Yeah, the written majority decision. Ruth Bader Ginsburg,
of course,
Justice Souter, Justice Stevens. So they will be out of gas at the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court already rules that the states cannot F with our elections, that it's procedural. And they have gone way past procedural, like changing our voting laws, because I don't think absentee ballot even exists anymore.
I don't know if it does either. That's a good question.
Why do you need it? Anybody
when everything's vote by mail, you don't need to set up certain absentee ballot recipients, which what that is those are military folks who served overseas, so they're able to vote. People who are, maybe in a care facility and they can't get out so that they can vote. You're absolutely right. Why do you need absentee ballots?
You don't.
And you don't if everybody's getting a ballot by mail, and many getting more than one, by the way.
Absolutely. And I will tell you that along with that oral argument, which quotes the 1995 Supreme Court ruling, which is very effective, he was really pleased to have that. And I spent about 2.5 months going through these cases. I haven't been on your show in a while, Charlie.
No.
And when I came across that case, I popped out of my chair in the office like, I had just had the Powerball numbers sent to me a text, But and the Supreme Court ruling is probably the number one beautiful thing, but also there's several things constitutionally that they're going to combine with it if it gets to oral arguments, and that is Article 6. Listen to this. This is straight out of the Constitution. Remember, at the Supreme Court, you want case law and you want constitutional law. You don't want the expert said. This guy believes that this is what should be. You want unrefutable. And are you going to refute the Constitution if you're a Democrat?
Well, many do, yes, but no, I don't.
But they are technically unrefutable. So anyway, Article 6 in the Constitution is also key because it says the Constitution and the laws of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding. Article 6, boom. Motor voter, right? Article 15 in the Constitution. American citizens are afforded the right to vote.
American citizens.
It's near the top of the Constitution. So, and California is not even hiding the fact that they're giving IDs and voting rights to illegal aliens. You've known it longer than most people have known it, Charlie.
Right.
So there are 3 articles in the Constitution that 37 of the 50 states are directly violating. Plus, they're going to be in for a surprise when they get dropped the 1995 ruling that their power is procedural and changing election laws does not fall under the Elections Clause, Article 1, Section 4, which we've all thought, and I alluded to this before, we all thought that the states could do whatever the hell they want. So we've got a hell of a oral argument, and I'm sure Peter and the other attorneys will have some additions and editing, and because I'm not a lawyer, but I can read. I can read the Constitution, and I can read a Supreme Court decision. And I don't need to be Albert Einstein to do that.
If anybody is questioning the importance and how vitally important it is, not only to our present, but our future, that President Donald Trump is in that office, think about where we would be if it were President Kamala Harris right now. Would any of this be happening? Would any of this be exposed? Most certainly not. They were railroading this nation into a one world government, a new world order. And especially with California, you bring down California, you can bring down the rest of the nation. Total collapse. As Hillary Clinton, the wicked witch of the wherever she's from now, once said, you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet. They were absolutely willing to burn this entire nation down and rule over the ashes because it's all part of the whole depopulation, one world government, new world order. President Trump has stood against that. He's gone after the cabal. He's gone after the deep state in ways that it would have never happened if he were not in office. The last thing I'm ever going to do is criticize President Trump for not using just the right language or anything else right now, because I am so grateful that he is there. Thank you, Lord, for this opportunity. Thank you very much. Please protect and pray for the president. Please pray for his protection. Pray for the protection of his family, of his cabinet, his administration. Can you imagine the attacks that they're going after, the plots against them, the ways to destroy him, dismantle him, take him down, even kill him? Can you
Yeah.
imagine the people who want to see him go away? It is extremely wicked, and we're fighting against spiritual forces. We've got to be praying. We've got to get with the Lord, our creator. We got to be praying through Christ Jesus. If you don't believe in my Lord and Savior Christ Jesus, I hope you'll reconsider that, because I care about you. But if you don't, just pray. Pray to the creator for protection of President Trump. I can only imagine what it must be like for him every day, and who wants to ruin him and destroy him.
I am praying that he releases the executive order soon, because the executive order, as I've explained, will hold up. But the time frame is the biggest concern, because
and we need it now. We got to be moving. We're only a couple of months away from the primaries.
Look, you know that an appeals, a left-wing radical judge that puts an injunction on it,
Of course.
he's going to sit on it before issuing the ruling as long as legally possible, because
They're trying to wait us out.
to run out the clock. That's
You're
what's going
right.
on, CharLee. They're trying to
I'm
run out the clock.
You know what? I was thinking, well, let this play out, and John Toon will do the right thing, and it's all going to happen, and they'll pass the SAVE Act, and all will be right and good in the world. But no,
But
I'm
now,
starting to realize you're right.
You know,
Right.
when Donald Trump initially held off, when the SAVE Act first came out, to wait and see how it went, mail-in ballots weren't even in it. So then he added it, or he made them add it. And then he waited a little longer, and it got even less support, because the Democrats are never going to vote for their own family members.
Despite the fact that their own constituents, their own voters want it.
Yeah.
That's the most appalling thing to me, with an overwhelming majority of all party lines thinking, yes, we should have voter ID. That just makes sense. Even on the far left.
Again, it makes sense, but that's not how illegal aliens vote. They vote by mail.
Yeah, they vote by mail. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
You know, CharLee, so he's got to release that to give it time to wind through the judicial system, in time to get to SCOTUS. And then even after it's upheld at the Supreme Court, you know, I told you he's going to be putting some cameras in voting state. It's just not an overnight process, and I'm getting very concerned. And the biggest concern of mine is that, and this is going to be a strong statement, we talk about the Democrats having Trump derangement syndrome. For whatever reason, and I'm a loyal Republican, the Republicans seem to have SAVE Act syndrome. And maybe it's a ceremonial thing, you know, these are two root things and there's no reason why it shouldn't pass. But the reality is it's not. And the reality is that although voter registration, proof of citizenship, and voter ID are important, that's not the number one culprit of cheating. There'll always be cheating in our elections, but it used to be in the thousands, not the millions. And so the oral argument is strong as rock, but Donald Trump, there's no reason to wait anymore. Surely, as you said, he knows it's 10 votes short. And I don't know if your fans and viewers who are all over the place saw the new amendment that Lisa Murkowski just tried to slap onto the SAVE Act, making it okay if you're an illegal alien 55 or older, you don't have to prove your citizenship or show voter ID. And that's a Republican. So I would say the two-prong approach is the way to go. The SAVE Act is on a respirator at Memorial Hospital, and the executive order needs to come out, CharLee. And if the people that support the SAVE Act could see what's in the executive order, they'd be happy. No, it doesn't have men and women's sports in it. No, it doesn't have no mutilation for children for transgender. No, it doesn't have that. But as far as elections, the people that are on the sinking Titanic SAVE Act would be happy with the executive order. It needs to be released.
We've got to do it now. This is imperative. We're in an election year.
That, CharLee. You know, it's been ready. Then the SAVE Act ended up being a big red herring. I hate to say it. And I wish it had passed and it was all lovey-dove kumbaya. But the Republicans better get a dose of reality. It's not passing, and the time is running, and the Democrats are more than happy to debate the SAVE Act until the end of time, because as long as they can preserve mail-in ballot, they are good shape.
All they have to do is stall it long enough to get through this midterm. That's what they're counting on, to get through this midterm election year. All they have to do is stall it long enough to where they still have all their voting, cheating crap in place. And then they can attack if we can't get a majority in the House and the Senate.
Yep, it's absolutely right. They're running out the clock, and I hate to say it, they're doing a pretty damn good job of it at the moment. And, you know, the Republicans are not helping themselves at the moment. That's for sure. And, you know, look, I did have that tense conversation with Scott Pressler. He does have a lot of followers. He's an influencer, but he is sending his message to the road to nowhere, because it's time to finally say, we gave the SAVE Act. I pushed it. I tried. I this, I that. But now we have to get behind the executive order from President Trump, because we just don't have the votes. I mean, if you really are an American patriot, at some point you have to look at the reality, because we're on a path right now where mail-in ballots are going to ruin this country in November. And I will add this. There are about 20 million more illegal aliens in this country now than there were in 2020 because of Joe Biden.
At least.
So if you think mail-in ballots was a problem,
there's more.
Oh, at least. So if you think mail-in ballots was a problem in 2020, one might say you ain't seen nothing yet. I have a friend in Kentucky. He's well-connected Democrat. He's a friend. He's more of a Clinton Democrat. He's not, you know, a squad member Democrat. But he says that the Democrats look at the midterms as their last chance to take down Donald Trump. And they're not talking about assassinating him, but take him down. They've tried 2 phony impeachments. It didn't work. They've tried 4 trials. It didn't work. And he told me that between mail-in ballots and the Democrats are going to show up in droves, even the ones that aren't using phony mail-in ballots. At the same time, Donald Trump's not on the ballot. This is shaping up for a major league disaster. And I wish I had better news. If the EO comes out soon, not in July, it won't be in time. It's going to get challenged by a left-wing judge at the appeals level. We've said that all along. We've talked.
And like you said, they'll sit on it until right at the very last minute, just to again play out the clock even more.
Exactly.
Yeah, they want these midterms to be free and easy for them to continue their cheating. It is imperative for them, because they know if President Trump is able to follow through on all the things he's working on right now, cleaning up the Fed, getting rid of the Fed, actually getting us a monetary system based on real value and things of value, and so on and so forth. They know that if President Trump is able to do all the things that he wants to do and has said he's going to do, if we get behind him and stay behind him, they know they're done. They're done.
You're right, Charlie. You're right. Because really, yeah, we've got crazy Democrats. We've got the Iran conflict. But as far as Trump and his power and his able to lead and continue to make the great decisions that he's always made, the real last hurdle is the midterms. If he gets through the midterms, the last 2 years of his term will be the golden age, because they won't be able to make up phony impeachments. They won't be, because we'll still have control on Capitol Hill.
And because of this, what we're seeing right here, I hope it's dawning on you why it's so important for the Democrat Party and the left. They're Marxists, they're radical communists, they're freaking communists. Why it's so important for them to completely destroy all of this is again for that new world order. They're doing the devil's work. They truly are. That's what they want. And they are fighting against this one man who said, nope, we're going to be sovereign. My own California Republican Party is labeling me all kinds of things because I'm a Christian and I believe in the sovereignty of the United States of America. So I'm a white Christian nationalist. And so why are you? I don't care what color you are. Do you believe in the sovereignty of the United States of America? Do you think that we are a God-blessed nation that was created through divine intervention? As if you look at the writings of our founding fathers, this is a blessing from God that we, the people, have at least one voice, one time in who's going to be calling the shots for us at the top. The rest of the world and the New World Order does not want anybody having that kind of freedom and can't be having a nation as powerful as we are continuing. That's why they want to destroy this. Are you starting to realize this? Is this dawning on you? I pray it is. And I also hope that you pray for President Trump and protect him. I'm with you, John, because I've been sitting back going, oh, the SAVE-Act's got to pass. It's got to pass quickly because we got the primaries coming up, California. Something's got to be done about all the election fraud here. We got to start showing ID and so on. I'm thinking this is fantastic. We got to get this done. This is the way to do it. But now I'm realizing after talking to you, screw them. Just do the EO, let it go to the courts, let it be challenged by some goofball lefty, let it go to the Supreme Court, and let it be done.
And also,
I'm with you. I agree with you now.
Perfect. And this current Supreme Court, if you look at the decisions they've made over the last 4 months concerning illegal aliens, 3 months ago they ruled President Trump can continue deportations. That's from the Supreme Court 3 months ago, okay? And then they had a ruling just a day or two ago that also reaffirmed the same thing. So the current Supreme Court, it is a 6-3 Republican majority, but they seem to be understanding that millions and millions of illegal aliens in our country is having an adverse effect in many ways. Crime, elections, people don't get jobs because they can pay an illegal immigrant $8 an hour cash.
All of our tax dollars going to support them getting freebies, one freebie after another after another.
That was a bribe. That was a bribe.
All under the guise of, well, we need somebody, as Chuck Schumer literally said, who's going to pick the crops in the field, who's going to be cleaning your toilets. That's all these people are to you. Chuck Schumer representing the Democrat Party. That's all these people are to you.
That's right.
It's insane. I'll tell you what, let them fix their own countries. I don't care what country they're from. I don't care what color their skin is. I don't care. I'd be saying the same thing if Canada suddenly decided, oh, we all Canucks, huh? We're going to come down and force you to watch hockey, eh? Yeah. And drink Tim Hortons. I don't care who they are, what their skin color is. You don't get to come in and just take residence.
Nope.
Just like the country you come from, I, as a white Christian nationalist, couldn't even go to your country and decide, you know what? I like it here. I'm going to stay. Oh, while we're at it, why don't you give me a bunch of free stuff? Oh, and you know what? I'd like a legal driver's license to drive as an illegal in your country. All the things are so ridiculous. And if we actually gave a little critical thought to this, instead of reacting to every time we're called a racist, and oh, no, I'm not. I have a black friend. Again, I don't care what color somebody is who's coming across the border illegally. They came across the border illegally. That's all I care about. Oh, would you deport these great people who've been here all these years and doing the work and so on and so forth? Yes. Yes, I would. The same way their own country would if it were the other way around. Yes, get out, self-deport. They're offering how many thousands of dollars to people who are willing to self-deport now?
Right, yeah.
We'll pay you to go back to your own country.
They raised it, yeah.
They raised it, that's right.
And if you self-deport, then it puts you in a better spot to come back legally after 24 months.
If you admit that what you did was wrong, you not only get paid to go back, but you have a better path to come back and do it the right way.
Yeah.
Now, are we making it too tough for people to come in and take up residency and become legal citizens of the United States of America? Everyone says yes. Do you even know? Do you know what process everyone else has to go through? I know I can speak from experience. This will make the show another 45 minutes long if I start telling you about what happened with me in Canada. So just suffice it to say, I know what I'm talking about.
There is a right way to come in the United
There's
States.
a right way, and it is a difficult way, and it can be
It
expensive.
should be.
And it should be
difficult.
Exactly.
CharLee, what happens if I went over to France and my visa was expired?
For 6 months. You got a visitor's visa. Yeah. 6 months.
And I was illegal in France, and I decided I was going to go to French President Macron and say, I
like it here. I want to live on croissants.
And I want to vote in your elections too.
The rest of my life. Oh, yeah. And I want to vote in your elections.
Yeah, that's right.
How well would that go over?
Out of here, buddy.
Come on.
They have me on the next flight out.
Absolutely right. You're a kick, man. And thank you for talking with us. Thank you for telling us all the stuff that's going on with this executive order. And I completely agree with you now. President Trump,
please ask your fans and followers.
Just pull the trigger.
Yeah. Please ask your fans and followers to message President Trump or their Republican representative that, we need that EO released because it's going to be challenged. There has to be time before the midterms to codify it at SCOTUS. Got a great SCOTUS oral argument, but if it doesn't get there, it's all for naught. Mail-in ballots in play, and then there's not going to be another president with the balls to do all this after Donald Trump leaves office. If we don't fix it now,
Kamala Harris, I do believe, probably has a pair, but she would have never done any of this because it's not in their best interest. They're not interested in one bit in fixing the elections here. They're interested in their new world order and their one-world government. I'm completely convinced of that.
Not fixed now. We could have rigged elections for decades to come.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's got to be now. This is a moment in time, just 6-7 months before the midterms. This is a moment in time, and we need that EO. The SAVE Act was a good idea. We need Plan B because SAVE Act Plan A is in intensive care.
I sometimes forget to open the chat room. This time I did though.
Yeah,
and I love this, Linda Falseman. I'm going to show what you just wrote on here. EO, oi, oi, oi.
Is that now, right? Yeah,
exactly.
And
EO,
Linda's
oi,
right.
oi, oi.
Linda's right.
All right, my friend. Thank you, man. It's great seeing you again, John Goodman. Enjoy life in the actual real United States of America. If you ever get out here to the People's Republic of Communist China, look me up and I'll do what I can to scrape some money. I'll get some quarters out of the couch and we'll have lunch somewhere for $18 for a value menu at McDonald's.
We'll do it. We always keep in touch, CharLee. We'll keep in touch.
Okay, buddy. All right. I'll talk to you later, my man.
Okay,
have fun.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, by the way, where do we find you? How do we follow along with what you're doing?
Yeah. I switched over to Getter, and the reason I did is because at this point of where we are with the midterms coming, my messaging can be the most effective on Getter. So if anyone is on Getter, that's spelled GETTR, and it'll be at John Good 1965 at JOHNGOOD 1965 Getter, and you'll get all this and push your people. We need that EO because we need that EO. I don't know. I explained it pretty well.
Oi, oi, oi.
Yeah, I love that. Linda, I love that.
Yeah, man. I'll talk to you later. I need to get over on Getter too. I do. YouTube's giving me 2 strikes, 1 more, and I'm out. This show may do it. Who knows? I've already had Facebook delete all of my pages, no longer on Instagram. Meta, which is supposed to be kinder and gentler towards conservatives. What a freaking lie. What a complete putrid lie that was. The censorship that's going on right now during President Trump's reign is worse than ever. And it's all AI. AI is taking everything down, deleting people. That's why everybody's jumping over to Rumble. And like John did over to Getter. I need to get on Getter as well. So go to rumble.com/do not talk. If you don't have a Rumble account yet, forget YouTube. Screw YouTube. Go to Rumble. It's the same thing, only it's friendly towards we conservatives. Why would you not be there? Rumble.com/do not talk is where you'll find my channel on there. And go to my website, please. Buy some products like this awesome mug. Let's talk about politics and religion. It's a big old 15-ounce coffee mug, too. And of course, it's red. I will stay a Republican. I'm not going to even entertain any talk about splitting away from the party. Nope. That will guarantee we'll never win another election. Ross Perot comes to mind. Anybody remember that? And all the Republicans were going, well, I like this guy, and the party's not talking to him, and we're going to get behind whatever dreaded. I am not going to leave the Republican Party as long as in their platform they are pro-marriage, pro-traditional marriage, and pro-life. Because I vote with biblical values in mind. So I'm not going to leave the Republican Party. I don't want you to think that. And people like John Goodman, I've had so many conservatives, including, who was I talking to just the other day? They were saying, oh, we're leaving the Republican Party and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I'm going, no, please don't. Please don't. Instead, fight for our party, at least in California. I don't know about what state you're in, but in California, fight against this. Start paying attention. Get registered to vote. Show up for the midterms and the primaries. Please. I'm not going to quit. But ultimately, God is in control. May God bless you. May God bless America. But most importantly, America, bless God.